further ado, thank you very much for coming here today. My name is Ed Davies. I'm the president of the Jakarta Foreign Correspondents Club and a journalist with Reuters. We're very pleased to have the Tourism and Creative Economy Minister, Sandiaga Uno, with us today. I'm sure most of you know him or know of him, and just a little recap of his career up to now. Before taking his current role, the minister was elected as Vice Governor of Jakarta and held the role until August 2018, before he ran as the running mate to Prabowo Subianto in the 2019 election. He was then appointed Vice Chairman of the Gerindra Party, Indonesia's second biggest party. During his business career, he co-founded Sartoga Investama Sedaya, the biggest listed active investment company in Indonesia, of which he was president director from 2004 to 2015. Since 2005, he's been active on a number of foundations and started a social movement in job creation and training and mentoring in entrepreneurship. He also developed Gerindra's economic platform as vice chair of the advisory board. He obtained a doctoral degree in management at Universitas Pelita Harapan and an MBA at George Washington University and a BA from Wichita State University in the United States. So I think this is a very, very interesting time for tourism. Obviously, the pandemic's allowed a certain potential reset and a new look at the industry and the creative economy as well. So I'd like to now open the floor to the minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed, for the introductions. And I always look forward to the sessions with the JFCC, Jakarta Foreign Correspondents Club. Even before I work in the government, I always find it very refreshing to have discussions with you guys. So I've been asked to do a presentations. But before I do a presentations, I would like to acknowledge the attendance of Her Excellency Ms. Yasoja Gunasekera, Ambassador of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, and friends from JFCC. Let me see the lineup because I know probably a lot of them. Oh yeah, Natalia from AFR, always thank you for attending our weekly press briefing. And I would like to invite you guys, actually, we have this weekly press briefing and next week we are going to do it on an extended basis. So sometimes I meet with Ismi of Nikkei, but she rarely attending. But Aris from Bloomberg News always show up. So I'd like to thank the regular participants of our weekly press briefing. And in the weekly press briefing, it's basically all hands on deck. We answer everything off the script and we'd like to address, because as you have pointed out, this is very interesting times for tourism, and we would like to have the media, in particular the foreign media, engage in what we are trying to do and what our priorities are. I'd like to acknowledge also John Macbeth. Love your reading. Love your writing. Love to read your piece, and please do one piece on Indonesia tourism soon. Okay. With me, I have my deputy for strategic policies, Ibu Nike, and director of the Communications Bureau, Ibu Ayu. So if you have further questions or difficult questions, you can ask them. Easy questions I will handle. Okay, let me share the screen very quickly so that we have times for question and answers. Maybe this will take less than 5 minutes. This is our strategy. Next slide. The recovery will focus on, first has to be the COVID-19 issue. So how do we innovate? How do we adapt? How do we collaborate to ensure the COVID-19 issues with the daily rates are being continued to be pushed down. We are going to spend more time, I guess, on domestic tourists, domestic demand. For the international side, we'll do it through the activations of the travel corridor arrangements that is now ongoing. And I guess medium to long term, we focus on how Indonesia will be destinations of choice, focus on sustainability and nature and culture-based type of tourism, and more quality in comparisons of the mass tourism based on quantity. So shifting a little bit from sand, sea, and sun to serenity, spirituality, and sustainability. Next slide. This is the grant that we are proposing for this year. Last year, we did 3.3 trillion of grant for tourism. This year, we move it up one notch to 3.7 trillion, and it will reach not only hotels and restaurants, but also travel agents. Next slide. The concept of tourism, as you can see behind me, it's 5 super priority destinations. Danau Toba, Borobudur, Labuan Bajo, Mandalika, and Likupang. And then we have 5 more. We call it priority destinations that would be targeted and segmented to few special interests. Centers around ecotourism, cultural tourism, and natural marine tourism. Next slide. We are seeing quite a dramatic change in the behavior of the whole industries. I guess the aftermath, we're still not yet over, but we're in the midst of the pandemic, but we're seeing younger crowd, more focused on health, interested in maintaining physical distance, cleanliness, healthy, safety, and environmental sustainability. In terms of the attractions, amenity, and accessibility, and people and promotions is also changing. More open air, more health concern issues, short trips, or even for work related, there will be open opportunities for staycations or work from destinations. Next slide. This is the travel corridor arrangements that we are currently working on, Batam Bintan and with Lagoy and Nongsa in Batam and Bintan, and Nusa Dua, Ubud, and Sanur as the proposed green zone. But next slide, we need to have preconditions, both here and globally. The originations country needs to have travel corridor arrangements with us. We need to have an agreement on end-to-end CHSE certifications, which is cleanliness, health, safety, and environmental sustainability. We need to ensure that we have industrial readiness. We need to complete vaccinations program. We need to also have a conducive situations in relations to the COVID-19 itself. Next slide. The president has targeted June and July as the target date. Obviously, the date will be dictated by the data that will be fed into us by the health authorities as well as the epidemiologists. We here in the tourism and creative economy have also have been using a panel of advisors of independent epidemiologists from globally to advise us so that we have the right data set in order for us to move forward. And we need to make sure that COVID-19 situations as well prioritize. So these are the CHSE certifications that we're doing. Currently, there are 15,000 registered in 34 provinces, more to come. Hotels, restaurants, activities are being certified to ensure their compliance to the health protocol. Next slide. On domestic tourists, the reactivations strategy focus on, again, the health protocol, the readiness of destinations to implement the health protocol. We are basically saying while the borders are closed, the local tourist destinations is open, but it has to be done on the coordinations with the COVID task force, making sure that that we're not triggering an increased risk for basically the potential risk for the increase in COVID cases. Next slide. Now, the creative economy, the other side of my portfolio, which is integrated to tourism. We have 17 subsectors. These are the sectors that have seen some pandemic winners, which is gaming, applications, TV moving up. Also, I guess certain parts of the creative economy is actually quite resilient. The three most dominant subsectors are culinary, fashion, and handicrafts. It's down by around 40 to 50%. Jobs have been, I guess, we lost about 3% of the jobs last year. We need to implement the right strategies to bring back the jobs. There are 34 million jobs within the tourism and creative economy, with 20 million or so in the creative economy and around 12, 13 million to 14 million in the tourism sector. Next slide. We provide them with access to funding. Next slide. We help them change their packaging so it's more up to the international standard. Next slide. We're changing, these are more SMEs. There are 64 million SMEs in Indonesia. We're changing how they, the kiosk as well as their shops, making it very, very nice to look at, but also hygienic, because this is the era of pandemic. Next slide. We're also having programs for startups, both from the food side all the way to the film side. So Film Financing Forum, I keep on challenging them. It's time that Indonesia win a nominations for an Oscar. South Korea already have Oscar winners, 2 years or 2 or 3 Oscar winners. This is a thriving industries, and this film industry needs, and music industry needs to provide global winners as well. Next slide. We are also coordinating with other ministries and agencies to join the national movement for proud to wear Indonesian products. So now I look at myself in the mirror every day. Do I have all Indonesian made products, including my underwear? And these are not just what you wear, what you eat, what you touch, but also digital assets, marketplace, and assistance. Next slide. Thank you very much. I now turn back to you, Ed, for possible some question and answers before we break for Friday prayer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. So yes, please please do send questions, or if you want to ask them yourself. I'm sure we can take you off mute. I'd just like to start the ball rolling, just to ask you about whether there were thoughts around medical tourism, which countries like Thailand seem to have done quite well at attracting a sort of, an international audience. And I can quite imagine there would be vested interest that might make this difficult, but is that an area you're considering?
Yes, it's one of the special interest tourism that we are trying to develop in Bali and several other destinations. We are inviting, I guess, the likes of institutions such as Mayo Clinics and more well-established names to set up world-class facilities in destinations. So Bali is the obvious choice, but also they're opening up for the local domestic tourists that normally goes to Malaysia or Singapore for their medical checkup. So Jakarta and Surabaya, as well as Medan, have seen increased investments, and we're doing this together with Minister of Health. He's leading the charge because it's within his portfolio, but we're handling also in a way of providing the destinations management organizations as well as destinations governance. And it is along the way of the also SOE ministers are trying to put close to $1 billion in senior facilities in Sanur that also centers for longevity type of trend that more and more older people are healthier, but they need activities as to promote healthy living, and this is something that we are very focused also. We're seeing close to $15 billion that are spent by abroad every year, and some of this is for medical tourism. So if they have alternative here, world-class facilities, affordable and comfortable for them, we believe we could target and we could also lure them to use the facilities onshore. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you. We have a question sent to me from Gregory Elms at Wave Tech. How is the ministry balancing the need to help existing tourist destinations recover with the need to attract investment in the new destinations? And as a site, he's working under contract to the World Bank on tourism investment capacity building via the firm Wave Tech.
Yes. Thank you for the questions. We are working with World Bank in particular for programs that we could ensure that the resiliency of the sectors during the pandemic, as well as the attracting quality and sustainable investments in the tourism and creative economy sectors. And we have an ongoing discussions. And Ibu Mari, who is an ex-minister for tourism and creative economy before me, actually now in World Bank. So it's really the possibilities, the opportunities are there, and I have asked my deputies to focus on key deliverables this year that we could achieve in order to help the sector. Because right now, I kept telling everybody the investments that is done in the midst of a crisis tend to outperform. Being an investor myself, most of my best return on investments were achieved during investments in the uncertain, volatile, and basically complex period of crisis. So yeah, it's I guess what we call contrarian investing, and we're seeing like Andas Hotel in Hyatt, or part of the Hyatt group, Andas brand just opened up in the midst of a crisis in Sanur, Bali, and we have heard that the initial response been quite positive. But of course, the priority is still now in especially with situations in India, we need to ensure that we are on high alert, and the health protocol have to be implemented on a strict and disciplined basis.
Thank you. We've got a question from the Sri Lanka Embassy. We'd like to know, thanking you for your thought leaderships on this, we'd like to know which countries you're planning to have travel corridor arrangements with.
Thank you, Excellency. We have been in discussions with China, Singapore, with Netherlands, with United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, and Korea, so and India before this massive situations taking place. But we are opening up more discussions, possibility of discussions following the initiation of June and July, which is the target that the president has given us. Of course, definitely this is subject to the COVID situations, but June and July is the target date. And if the pilot project that we're doing with this limited countries prove to be successful, and we are going to expand it with more countries to join the travel corridor arrangement. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you, Excellency. It was very interesting to hear your views, because for Sri Lanka also, this is such an important sector of the economy. And it's really interesting to see your fresh take on how we can rebuild better after COVID-19. So we wish Indonesia all the best with your efforts.
Thank you. And we're learning from the strategy of Sri Lanka, actually, which I heard have gotten some influx of tourists from the neighboring areas. So I've been getting inputs from my colleagues, data on how Sri Lanka is having the right strategy. So thank you very much for your experience and for the data sets that we've been getting.
Thanks, we're always happy to share.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a question from Natalia at AFR. Looking at developments in India, are there any bigger anticipatory steps to prevent this from happening in Indonesia, especially in preparation for the opening of areas for tourism such as Bintan and Bali?
Okay, I was just before, I was late for about 3-4 minutes because I was having a call with the Minister of Health, Budi, and we are going to be very, very cautious and careful moving forward. We are seeing numbers at about 4,000 to 5,000, down from 14,000 to 15,000 in January, due to the minor scale social or micro scale social restrictions, activities by the people. We are taking steps such as banning the annual homecoming, and based on the last data, that we have been able to reduce the I guess the intentions of people to still go home for the holidays by around 80%. But 10% of Indonesians is still a large number. It's 20 million people. So we need to even bring it down by more road checks, road closures to ensure that we don't have, and we have seen early signs of clusters developing by, by allowing some of the early homecoming activities being done. So we're going to even make it tighter for the homecoming. So Natalia, we are anticipating and we are increasing the health protocol. Luckily, the new supply of vaccines have arrived, both from the COVAX facility as well as AstraZeneca. So we are going to step up and ramp up the vaccinations in Bali, Bintan, and Batam, as well as Yogyakarta and Jakarta. And with the current situations, we are obviously focusing on our preparations and our readiness. And based on my last check with our colleagues in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Australia has not been in advanced discussions for the travel corridor arrangements. Next year, yes, we definitely are going to review this on a week-to-week basis. If there is a good progress and if there is an opportunities, and we need to respect also our friendly neighbors, Australia's policy on how they're going to allow their citizens to travel to Bali. This is something that I guess my colleagues, Ibu Retno, will take a lead role here. Thank you, Natalia.
Thank you. Just to follow up, is there any thought of, I think in Phuket, in Thailand, they were talking about trying to vaccinate the whole of that sort of resort. Is there any thought of trying that sort of program here?
We are embarking on a very aggressive targets of vaccinating 2.8 million Balinese by June and July. So we are trying to change the color of the zones to all greens, because now Ubud, Sanur, and Nusa Dua have less than 5 cases a day, which actually green. But if you look at the Regency, it's orange or yellow. So we hope by the vaccinations drive that we're doing, and this has been approved by the president, we like to have the colors more to the yellow, to the greenish, and that will allow more confident for us to reactivate and reopen Bali. However, vaccination is just one pillar of the 9 pillars that WHO has given us to ensure before we reopen. And the other thing is the health protocol, testing, tracing, and treatment. That's really, really critical and key. And we are now having the testing, we elevate the testing requirement, and tracing. We added number of tracers. We also recruiting more of the local village, tourism village to participate with the testing tracing, because one really successful way of combating the COVID-19 is the testing and tracing. And finally, the availability of the health facilities. Looking at what happened in India and what happened in Indonesia in January, whereby our bed occupancy ratio was nearing 70 to 80%. Right now, it's about less in the key province is all less than 60%. So we need to ensure that our health facility is well equipped and ready.
Thank you. A question from Lotte Hedberg at C4. Do you anticipate foreign tourists will return to Indonesia in the same numbers as before the pandemic once travel regulations are lifted?
Short answer is no. I'm very realistic. I'm more of an entrepreneur than a politician. So I think tourism will change into more personalized, customized, localized, and smaller in size. More of quality and sustainability. And this allow us to actually change the tourism landscape. Like Bali, I challenge the local government and my colleagues in several ministries to declare that Bali 2030, all electric vehicles, all renewable energies. This is a game changer if we can tell the world that Bali no longer use fossil fuels. Same with Borobudur, Danau Toba, Likupang, Mandalika, and Labuan Bajo. In particular, Labuan Bajo, because it's the Komodo dragon and it's a bedrock of conservationists. It allows us also to rethink how we build our infrastructures, how we do interconnectivity, how we're now pushing more on rural tourism, because rural tourism will even out. Right now, if you look at Bali, 80% of the hotels are in one regency in Badung area. We need to spread it out. We need to ensure that the tourism is good for job creation, but it also creates gaps. One of the challenges is the Gini ratio. Right now is actually quite, I think, improved, but we need to ensure that tourism as a job creators, because 34 million with the creative economy are the one of the ways that Indonesia could chart ahead to pull itself up and recover its economy.
Thank you. I'm just being told that you have to stop for prayers now or shortly.
Maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Okay, let's see if we can finish these questions. Christine at Kyoto News. Lion Air resumed a regular flight from Jakarta to Wuhan once a week every Monday. Is this part of the travel corridor arrangement with China?
No, because that is done for the essential travelers. And we are also getting data from those flights in preparations for the TCA. Because the TCA will not require the regular type of quarantine. Once you move into the bubble area, after you are tested negative, once you arrive, you are free to move within the green zones. So right now, the Wuhan is basically same thing. People go to Wuhan, they will go into a 14 days quarantine, and people who are returning from Wuhan will get a 5 days quarantine here.
Thank you. And the final question, Mardika Aranama from BGA. What are the government's plans to keep tourism afloat if the international travel ban continues for months, years? will there be additional stimulus packages for the tourism industry in the future?
Well, we are delivering 3.7 million worth of grants to the, and these are grants to the tourism sector, hotel, restaurants, travel agents, informal workers, and this will allow some social protection. Secondly, we're delivering some recovery fund from the economic recovery unit of the COVID economic recovery team. There are several proposals, 9.4 trillion rupiah for Bali, and around 4 trillions in addition to that for several tourism destinations area. And then we have also programs that is catered for, we call it Padat Karya, which is basically job creations. And this entails some refurbishments, some renovations, some upkeep of the facilities, because we don't want the sectors to be permanently damaged after more than a year with very, very little tourist arrivals. So yes, Pak Mardika, we're going to create more stimulus. I understand that Ibu Sri Mulyani's budget is restricted and very constrained, but this is the time that we are preparing more public-private partnership. I think the technological company, the digital companies have been helped a lot by this pandemic actually, and some like Gojek and Tokopedia are merging with astronomical valuations. Some are doing SPACs in the US. So we've asked them to also help out the sectors by providing collaborations on a public-private partnership. So yeah, it's a tough time, but I'm sure if we are holding hands, if we're united, we could really prepare for and pivot to a much better tourism and creative economy sector post-pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I think we have to wrap up now, but I'd just like to thank you very much, Minister, for giving us your time, and look forward to seeing you in various tourist destinations, hopefully.